Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your co-host, Catherine Carrigan. I'm a medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. My latest book, The Difference Between Pain and Suffering, is a book that you can use to get out of pain naturally without drugs. It's been on Amazon at #1 for 22 days in 7 different categories. And you can find out more about my work as a medical intuitive healer at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. Today, I'm really super excited because we're going to be hearing from somebody that I tremendously admire, Art Costello. Art is the author of Expectation Therapy, currently published by Balboa Press of Hay House. Art currently lives in Austin, Texas, with his wife, Beverly, and their dog, Hazel. He also has 3 grown-up children and 5 grandchildren. Art's background includes serving as a Marine in Vietnam. How cool is that? Playing college and semi-professional baseball, and working as a talent scout in the entertainment industry. As a counselor at Mercy Mental Health in San Diego, he has worked with world-renowned play researcher Dr. Stuart Brown. And you can find out more about his amazing work at expectationtherapy.com. So welcome, Art Costello.
Welcome, Catherine. It's a pleasure seeing you.
Okay, Art, where did you get the idea for expectation therapy?
Expectation therapy was born out of my childhood. I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but it just grew in my adulthood. I realized that how an important role expectations played in my healing of myself through so many different events that went in my life. Let me just kind of run through my life story with you a little bit. When I was a young boy, 5, 6 years old, my life was great. I lived in a suburban area in a beautiful home. When I was 9, my parents uprooted us and moved us to a very rural area. I had no friends. The thing that I loved most was baseball, and there was no baseball fields. We were kind of shunned because we had moved from the city to the country, and people just didn't really trust us, which was really kind of odd to me. But when I went to school, it filtered over into that, and I really just didn't have many friends and anybody to play with. So what I would do to, through this time of depression and adjustment and transition, I would go to this mountaintop that was next to the house where we lived, and go to the top of this hill, lay on my back, and talk to the universe. And I would ask what was going to become of me. And I'd make these journeys quite often because it was just such a struggle, going from such a great, what I considered at 8 and 9 years old, a great life, going into a life of really being isolated. I had a sister and I had an older brother, but they were kind of off doing their own thing, so I was kind of alone. My parents were very distant. My parents didn't set any expectations for us. So my solace was up on top of that mountain. And I was laying on top of that mountain one day, and I heard this voice. And when you're 9 years old, you start hearing voices. It's kind of a shock to you, and you kind of, well, whoa, what is this? But when I listened to the voice, it was saying to me, just be patient and your greatness will come. And I made this trip so many times in my childhood that I really started to believe in this voice, and I trusted this voice. And I started to formulate a plan of how I was going to escape the environment I was in. School was terrible for me. It was not a pleasant experience. I just wanted to escape. So between the age of 9 and 17, I made plans to enter the Marine Corps. That was my escape. So at 17 years old, after graduating, I went and joined the Marine Corps. A year later, I found myself on my way to Vietnam. And, all throughout life, through this time of getting through the Marine Corps boot camp and everything, I always relied on this voice inside of me. And I think I became very intuitive and in tune to that voice. And I just listened to it. To just speed it up a little bit, I went to Vietnam, and how do you make sense out of a war? How do you do that? How do you adjust to it? How do you get through it? Well, I always relied on that voice, but I had an incredible experience in Vietnam that really separated everything from me. That I like to tell the story about. One night we were coming through this valley down towards this river. We crossed the bridge and into this village. And as we were crossing through the village, it was in the early morning, dawn was just breaking. And I came around the corner of this hut. And here, standing in front of me, behind a chicken wire fence, was a little girl looking up at me. And our eyes caught. And, I'm carrying weapons and everything. And I soon realized that there was a bunch of kids here. But the minute my eyes met this girl's eyes, I knew that she needed me. And I didn't say anything to her, but I just had this intuition that this little girl needed me. And if, looking at her, she was probably 9 years old. Well, I know she was 9 years old now, but she was 9 years old. So there was a correlation between seeing myself standing there, lost, lonely, and abandoned, and her. So what I did is I found out it was an orphanage. I went back to our main compound, and I asked the chaplain if we could have the kids from the orphanage over for Thanksgiving dinner, because Thanksgiving dinner was coming. So lo and behold, the chaplain got it arranged. I didn't arrange it, he got it arranged. But Thanksgiving Day, when they brought the kids, they sent a 6x, which is a big truck out to get the kids, load the kids up. And they loaded about 20, 30 kids onto this 6x and brought them to our main compound. And when they were unloading the kids, this little girl saw me. And she ran into my arms. Oh. And it melted me. And I wrote home to my parents after that, because she had no toothpaste, she had no undergarments, she had no clothes, she was in rags. And it broke my heart. And I wrote home to my parents and I said, Mom and Dad, can you please go to my bank account, take out all my money and send me money so I can buy this little girl what she needs, and then I want to send her to school. Mm-hmm. So I got with the chaplain and arranged to get all these, because I was always moving around. I wasn't in one location. So the chaplain started arranging for her school and her care. Well, my mom, being the person that she is, she started raising not only cash, but toothpaste and everything, medical supplies, everything the orphanage could use, and other orphanage. And it blew up. It turned into a big thing. President Johnson at the time gave my mother an award for all of her work. But I came home in 67. I came home, and I kept sending her money. In 1968, I got a letter from the chaplain saying that I could stop sending money, that during the Tet Offensive, the orphanage was overrun and all the children were lost. So it was heartbreaking for me, but, I knew that, God has a plan. And so I got out of the Marine Corps. I went to college. I have always used this idea, this voice in me, to catapult me. And then speeding ahead, in 2003, my wife of 35 years was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. and another big challenge in my life. And she fought heroically for 3 years and passed away in 2006. She succumbed to the ovarian cancer. Before she passed away, she gave me the greatest gift I thought a woman could ever give a man. I didn't realize it at the time, but I did later. One day she sat me down and she said, "Art, I want to thank you for being so good to me for all these years. And I want to release you from your marriage vows so you can go find someone else to love." And I said, "No, I can't do that." And she passed away 2 weeks later, and my kids and I were kind of lost and all, in the despair and in the grief and grieving. But I didn't honor her. I didn't honor her wish. I didn't honor her request to find someone else. I started drinking, and my life kind of just went on hold. I sold my business to pay off all the medical bills, took care of all the things that she wanted me to, but I pretty much stayed at our ranch and just kind of fell apart. And that lasted for about 2 years. And, I got into some behaviors I wasn't really proud of. I was chasing women and not really relationships. I was just out partying and trying to bury my grief. And it got old, drinking every day and drinking beer. My weight mushroomed up, and my health, I didn't feel good and all that. And, you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired sometimes. And I got down on my hands one night at the ranch at the end of our bed. And I prayed, and I spoke to that voice I've always heard in my life. And I heard that voice say, "I've given you all the tools. Get up and get going." And that's how expectation therapy was born. I got up from there rejuvenated, wanting to live, stopped drinking, stopped acting like a fool, started just being the person that I was always intended to be. And about 2.5 years later, after getting myself straightened out and everything, I was on Match.com and looked at this picture of this girl, and I said, "Golly, I love her eyes." And wrote her a letter, and that's a long story. We won't get into it, but eventually, 1.5 years later, we were married. Beverly and I were married. And it was another promise fulfilled. Beverly is a promise that was fulfilled in this expectation. But anyway, I started writing about expectation therapy because I started examining my life and thinking about what in the world, how did I survive all the things? My childhood of being alone and abandoned and feeling so lonely, Vietnam, years of owning my own business and dealing with, so many issues, and then losing Vicky to cancer. And how did I always get through it? And I realized that I've always had the expectation that I would, and relying on that voice. So I started writing, and as the more I wrote, the more it took form. And I've always studied physics and that kind of thing. And in physics, there's a formula called the formula of expectation. And basically what I did is I took that formula and I converted it into a behavioral modification plan to heal. And it's how I healed myself. And basically it goes to identify, to clarify, and then solidify with a written plan or a workable plan in your head. You can do either. But that's how expectation therapy was born. And it's how I've just kind of gotten through every ordeal in my life. So it's really kind of interesting. And it was a long process in writing it. It took a lot of work and research. As you know, writing a book is not always the easiest thing, but everything just flowed out of me, and it just happened and worked. what I like to tell people is that expectation therapy really has a lot of science behind it, which for me, I just told you when we were talking before that I just came back from Harvard, speaking at Harvard. And one of the things that speaking there did is when you have so many people of high caliber tell you that you're on the right track and that there is science behind it. And they were amazed that I could take a physics formula and turn it into a behavioral tool to do. But really, that's what expectation therapy is. It's a tool that people can use to heal themselves and transition through any event in their life. It works on anything. It works with children. It works with adults. It works with seniors. The key element really in expectation therapy is we see our expectations through two lenses. The first lens that we generally see our expectations is in faith and vision. Second is fear. Well, fear is what stops everybody. So it overcomes that fear and gives you the faith. But what I always tell people that faith comes in many forms, as many forms as fear does. Faith doesn't necessarily have to be a religious faith. Faith can be in yourself, can be in a mentor, can be in a teacher. Faith comes in lots of different ways. So I always tell people it's up to you how you see faith. But you have to make the decision that you're going to make the choice that you're going to see things through faith and not let fear overtake you. And you can overcome that fear. And it's really what makes it so effective, because it cuts through the chase and gets to the issue that's bothering you. When you identify what's bothering you, and then you start clarifying it, and clarifying, I mean, is when you put certainty to it. When you start making everything is, you're absolutely sure. And I tell people in the identification phase to really get into a meditative state. Start meditating and get inward and get into yourself, get into your soul, and examine yourself, what you really want, what you want to be doing, how you want to be doing it. Then clarify it with just going back over it and over it. And then slowly develop a plan in the solidification form to where you actually have I always tell people to write it down, because anything that you write down, you can always look back on it and it doesn't change. It's always written, and you can start moving through. And it just works. It's very effective. It's very effective in helping people identify their problems. It's it rids people of anxiety. It really takes that anxiety away, because you have a much clearer picture of where you're going and what you're going to do. And that always leads to being more productive, being happier, being more self-satisfied, being more self-aware. The other element of expectation therapy is emotional intelligence. I always tell people to get in touch with their emotions. Get in touch with them, but more than that, learn to identify what they are accurately. Because once you can identify your emotions, then you've got the upper hand in dealing with what's going on with yourself. We let our emotions overrule us sometimes, and when we let the brain succumb to the emotion and don't let the two work in synchronicity, it puts us out of kilter. So it's really important. Go ahead.
Yeah, Art, I just love your stories. You're so heart-centered, and you can just feel the care that you bring to your life and to your work. I'm really curious, because you said that you have always been a student of physics. I also like physics. I think it's really fascinating. And can you tell us more about what's the science behind expectation therapy? And can you explain the physics principle and how it relates to the behavioral principles that you have developed?
Yeah, this is what we're working on right now. And this is part of my Harvard journey. When I was 9 years old and laying up on that hill, I put out vibrations. We believe that the mind puts out electrical impulses, vibrations that go on for eons. I call it the butterfly effect. We have a thought. It just goes out into the universe and it goes, we don't know where. But those positive thoughts create positive results. And this is, I'm just trying to put it in simple terms so people can understand it. But when you put out positive thoughts, you put out positive energy. And that positive energy stays in the atmosphere. Also, when you have negative thoughts, negative energies put out there, and they stay in the atmosphere. So it's one of the reasons why remaining positive and doing positive things makes such a big difference. So when I was 9 and laying up on that hill, I put out these vibrations, and all my life those vibrations have returned to me. Come back, come back. Every time I've been in need. I can tell you about times being on patrol in Vietnam and being scared and then just turning to those positive thoughts. Everything's going to be okay. I'm always saying to myself, everything is going to be okay because I know the universe has got my back. I know that that God in the universe has going to take care of me. It doesn't necessarily always mean that it's going to be the way that I want, but I always trust in that it's always leading me to where I'm supposed to be.
And as you know, Einstein, one of our leading physicists, said that the most important question is whether or not we consider the universe to be a friendly place. So that goes to expectations also. So if you expect the universe to be a friendly place for you, then you know and experience that you're guided and supported every moment, every second of your life.
And that's faith. That is what faith is. That's my definition of faith. I always know that I'm taken care of, no matter what it is, even to my dying day. I know that that's the way it's supposed to be. My intent is to live to be 134. I've got this intent in my head about 134, but we'll see. You know, you're always adjusting. But I believe that when I put out those positive thoughts, they've come back to me trillions of times in every little instant. You know, I often think of, you ever drive a car and you pull out and you went, oh, I shouldn't have pulled out then? And you go, golly, if I had done it a second later, I wouldn't be here. That other car would have ran into me. You know, I think that's the universe at work, you know, protecting, taking care of, because when you have faith in the universe and you have faith in God and his plan for all of this, it just works. It just all works in a positive way.
Now, Art, can you give us some real life examples of how expectation therapy has helped other people overcome their fears?
Sure. I have had clients that are going through divorce, and they cannot see beyond the divorce. They see the whole picture of the daily battle of child support and spousal support. You know, all the things that are entailed in divorce. They see that and they can't get beyond it. And through my writing, I try to get them, instill in them to have faith. That's really what I do more than anything. If you expect good things will come. And I teach them to expect that they're going to get through this. They're going to come out of it with a new vision of their life. And we work on setting goals and in placing events in their life that are going to reinforce the positive things in their life so they get through it. I'm working with a man right now that has cancer, and he had terminally ill pancreatic cancer.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and that is really, well, he was going to MD Anderson in Houston, and we were working on being positive and just trusting. And he's a great guy. He gets it. He understands it. And he started thinking positively. No matter what today was, I'm going to enjoy this moment, this time. I'm going to enjoy my chemo. I'm going to enjoy this. Well, lo and behold, he's at MD Anderson. He hears about a new protocol for pancreatic cancer patients that only 2% of the world's population actually can qualify for this trial. He called me and said, there's this trial, and he was really excited, and I said, go for it. Think positive, let's do this, let's go for it. He made the trial.
Oh my goodness, that's so exciting.
He made the trial. He's now 6 months through the trial. Remission. He's in remission.
That is a serious miracle. Wow.
Positive thoughts. He is a firm believer in positive thinking. He is. When I was at Harvard, I got to meet a lot of integrative medical doctors that are trying to change the medical field. And it has been so interesting because they study Eastern religion a lot and Western medicine. And they take from the good things that they want out of Western medicine and integrate it with their Eastern philosophies. And they're having tremendous, I met a doctor who is doing diabetes studies that is having incredible diabetes miracles. I call them miracles. So there's something to be said about the mind-body working in synchronicity and the soul and the heart all working together. And I think that that's what's so important, is that our approach to healing, to helping people, be an integrated one. I don't believe that any one mode of therapy or philosophy is going to be the key. I think taking from everything and working in conjunction with everybody is what really makes a difference and can have positive effects. But I do tell people that everything starts with an expectation. It is, to me, it is the seed from which man has grown since the dawn of time. If we didn't have expectations, we would not be where we are today.
What's interesting about what you're saying, Art, is I do healing work as a medical intuitive healer. And when I'm working with people, we'll set a goal like, overcome pancreatic cancer, overcome back pain, or, get a job or find a life partner. And then what you do when you identify the dis-ease or illness that you want to clear, I identify the seed thought. What is the seed thought? And I say to people, just like they're, even a giant oak tree started from a seed. Your thoughts are seeds, and we'll call them negative thoughts, are going to grow, have the potential to manifest as dis-ease or illness. And typically when I'm looking for the seed thought of dis-ease or illness, it's going to be, I call it mental, emotional, or a fear. And, although those are just different categories of the same thing, but what specific fear is it that's manifesting as this disease? What specific emotion or what specific belief about yourself or about the world? And I think it's so important as a healer to identify that seed thought and then shift it. I mean, you've got to shift that seed thought so it's not, it's otherwise you're just going to be out there rooting again and rooting again, you know, weeding. I'm the gardener.
There's the clarification part. You got the seed, which is the identify. The clarification part, you got, see, it's all works in synchronicity. It really does.
Yeah.
But you're right about the seed, because the expectation, I always tell people, you know, because we have a lot of therapists and a lot of doctors and medical people who tell people, and even philosophers, and that say don't have any expectations. We are bombarded with it every single day, with advertisers telling us don't expect, or what to expect. And if you can get your expectations and learn how to use them to your benefit, and that's what I teach, is to use your expectations to benefit your growth and move you forward, because an expectation that stays in your mind is just a thought. An expectation that you put in action with becomes your reality. So, I mean, that's what I tell people, you know, you know, because they have such a negative. I just ran into a girl at my ophthalmologist's office the other day, and she said, "You write about expectations, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "My therapist told me, do away with all expectations. Don't expect anything from anybody. Don't expect anything from yourself, and you'll never get hurt." And I said, when you go back to him, ask him or her, ask them what you will get by not expecting. And she said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Do you realize how simple an expectation is and how much you expect every day?" And she said, I don't expect." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to do my famous experiment with you." So I told her, I said, "Take your right hand, put it over your nose, take your left hand and put it over your mouth." And she said, "I won't be able to breathe." I said, "You expect to breathe." That's how basic expectations are. Everything we do comes from an expectation. If it doesn't, it just stays in our heads as a thought or a dream. So in order to make any of it a reality, you've got to take steps forward and move and create. So expectations to me are our creative seed to catapult us into being everything that the universe and God intended us to be, to move us forward. And it's been that way since the dawn of man. Whether you believe in evolution or creation, you cannot deny that we were implanted with the seed of expectation, which brings me to another thing in Harvard that I was involved in is a lot of the quantum physicists and astrophysicists are starting to believe in intelligent design. They're starting to shift, and it's ever so low. You still got the people that fight it, but so many are starting to think that there is some intelligent design to us. And expectations are the seed that it all grows from. Without expectation, we don't do anything. Everything we do is predicated on an expectation. We have the thought, we act on it, the expectation of it, and we keep going. And makes us better and better and better when you use it right. Or it can be our staunchest critic. You know, because if you look at it negatively, it can beat you. I believe that all anxiety and depression starts with unmet expectations. You know, you go in, you know, your husband doesn't do this, your wife doesn't do that, and you start going, oh man, and you get that downer going, and then all of a sudden it's not one thing, it's two things, it's three things that they're not doing. And pretty soon you're going down this slippery slope to destruction, self-destruction. And anxiety, we know, is seated in fear, just not being able to overcome it, you know, whatever you're trying to do. I had go ahead.
So, Art, who do you think can benefit the most from expectation therapy?
You know, I think I think everybody, but that's a big thing. But my goal is to enlighten the world. I believe that that's why I've been placed here, why I'm living the life that I've lived, that positive expectations can change your life. And that's the message I want to promote. My goal is I'd love to see expectations taught to children and get them before they're assaulted by the world that we live in. It can help anybody, but I try to focus on people that are in crisis, in transition, lost, don't know where to go, don't know who to turn to, don't know how to help themselves. Those are the people that I really love helping the most immediately. And then secondary is just keep on speaking about expectations and keep on telling people and letting them make the choice themselves, because life is about choices. And either you can choose to stay stagnant and not expect anything, or you can choose to expect and start living the life that I've lived. I'm so blessed in so many things, and I don't measure things in money and all that. It's about my heart. It's about how my soul feels. And I'm as happy as I've ever been in my life. I mean, I keep going, saying to myself some days, can you get any happier? Well, yeah, tomorrow, next minute, I run into somebody and I say one little word to them, or I say a sentence and they'll say to me, that's amazing. That's so positive. How do you think that? And we get a conversation going. I was on a flight back from Harvard, and the stewardess was coming by me, and it was a hectic flight. There was a lot of kids and elderly people, and she was going back and forth, and she was carried. And as she was going by, I winked at her and just said, breathe deep, calm. And she looked and she said to me, oh, I needed you today. And things broke, and she came by and she said, I felt your energy. She said, I just felt like this positiveness out of you. So I started telling her. And she says, I've got to get your book. She said, I've got to get your book because it's trying every day for me getting on this plane. I said, do you love what you do? She said, I love being around people. And I said, then show it. I said, then just start living it, it's easy. And she said, it's so difficult some days. And I said, you make it difficult. I said, because you're making that choice to make it difficult. I said, I know it's tough to smile sometimes, but a smile in the morning carries through the rest of the day. I always tell people, get up out of bed, make your bed, and smile while you're doing it, because it just changes your day. It's my ritual. I get up every day and make my bed. I mean, my bed never goes unmade.
That's true. I set the tone for my day by, I wake up, I pray, I meditate, and I talk to my dog. And like you, I think about all the things that I'm grateful for, and I consciously set the tone for the whole day.
That's the way you do it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you do it.
Yes. You choose your frequency. Mm-hmm. Now, Art, what kind of programs have you created for the public to learn about expectation therapy in addition to your book?
I have actually on my website a course, an online course. I have a workbook. We're in the process of revamping a lot of it right now. The material's staying the same. It's being not a marketing guru and all that. I kind of had things buried on my website because I do a lot of everything myself. So I'm learning every day on how to bring things forward that you want people to see. But I have an online course. I have a workbook. I have some videos to help you get through it. There's some free videos on my website, and you're welcome to go. And anybody that wants to help, I do some one-on-ones. I do very few one-on-ones, but I do take clients on as I see fit with scheduling and everything else. But I'm working towards doing some, I want to do some, I want to get with somebody like you and do an integrative approach where we can do some retreats, where we can take somebody through a whole 3-day weekend and really transform them, not only with their expectations, but with their medical and with their whatever they have that they want to change. We'll have a team of people that we can put together that will help, which will facilitate people healing themselves. So we can do them on divorce. We can do them, it's all basic really of how we do it. But that's what I'm trying to create. And then I'm also going to add on there some group where we can do some group sessions that'll be in a private room, and we can really do some through Zoom or Skype, or I'm not a big fan on Skype, but Zoom, and there's a couple other platforms that I use that are really good, that we can offer group sessions and all that. And then for people that want to go into a more intensive thing, we can also offer that. I'm going to offer that. So I've got some offerings coming up that are going to really change people's lives. I speak at schools a lot. I love speaking at schools because I love talking to middle schoolers and high schoolers about their expectation and tell them my story, because it moves them. They know there's kids that are sitting there every day that are going through the same exact thing I went through, feeling lonely and abandoned. They need to have hope. They need to know that it's going to be all right, that they can get through it. So that's...
Now, Art, for those of us, for people out there listening and watching, and they hear you and they realize that they have either no expectations, or we'll say no positive expectations, they've lost hope. What's the first step if someone has lost hope, in your opinion, so that they can transform their expectations? What's the first step?
The first step that they need to do is go into what I call a meditative state, a reclusive, by yourself, my going to the top of that mountain and having a conversation with themselves. People can do it in your car. You can do it anywhere if you can put your mind into that reflective, intuitive mode and really self-examine. I think it starts with self-examination. And then I always tell people, once you get to that point, and it's very similar to what you said, and you actually physically did it. I always tell people, physically reach up to your head and go, I'm turning off negative. I'm turning on positive, and turn it, and turn it. It works. It's that affirmation. It's you're affirming to yourself that you're blocking something out, you're taking it out of your life, and you're replacing it with something positive. It works. I know for me, when I was 9 years old, I made a conscious choice to believe in that voice. And I think once we make that conscious choice to believe, it really is it transforms you, because you start to gain the faith, you start to gain confidence, you start to gain self-awareness. Making that transition from not knowing to knowing and control, being able to have control over yourself, really is a powerful tool. And it's simple. We tend to complicate things. One of the people at Harvard said to me, they said, we come up with all these super intelligent modes of therapy. And he said to me, he said, you know what? He said, what you do is so simple, but it is so simply effective. And it gets through the clutter, and it gets through all the cobwebs so fast that you can transform somebody in a matter of hours, days, minutes, take your choice. It's up to them, really. And that's the other part of expectation therapy. Everything relies on you. It's drawn back into you. You control you. You're responsible for you. It gives you that independence, because once you're in control and you know your direction, that's what it does. It makes you really aware that you are, and you cannot point the finger to anybody else. It's so simple to blame others, and you can't do that. With this, you've got to take accountability and face what you need to change and move forward. There's hope for every single one of us. Every single one of us.
Art Costello, very powerful message, 110% personal responsibility, and really learning how to uplift yourself with hopeful, positive expectations. You can find out more about Art Costello and his very powerful work at expectationtherapy.com. You've been listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. This is Catherine Carrigan. I am a medical intuitive healer and Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. And if you're listening to this show, Art and I are sending you positive expectations that this show will uplift you, will fill your heart and your mind and your soul with positive vibes so that you can change your life, feel better naturally. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.